Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. I think this is going to be somewhat special because I have some amazing people lined up. You would have seen that already, no doubt, in the thumbnail. I'm going to be talking about two very interesting and special events, which they are so special that we cannot put the content as such onto platforms like this. You really need to turn up to be to them. And fortunately, it's being recorded so you can get a DVD or a download or whatever the technology is these days. I can't keep up with it. We're talking about water, ether, which is a subject which I really want to find out about, and the secrets of the universe. And to introduce our two guests, let me present Rachel Russell. You may remember she came on with her amazing magnets, which have been flying out the door like nobody's business, and people have been helped by those. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Yay! Hello, Richard. Good
Lovely
afternoon.
lovely to have you back again.
It's yes, we've got a lot of work to do with this world, haven't we?
We certainly have. We certainly have. And so there's an event coming up,
Yeah,
and the great thing is we've got a couple of people who are going to talk about the event who are giving talks there, and many people will have heard of them and will be in awe, as I am. And I know one of them has taken my blood. He hasn't given it back. I don't know what he's done with it, but he has examined it. And hopefully I'm still alive to tell the tale. So, Rachel, tell us just a little bit, first of all, then, what is these two dates and these events? I know I've mentioned water, ether, and the secrets of the universe. And who have we got to entice people to come along?
absolutely. Thank you, Richard. So we have two events basically that are going to happen in two different areas of the country. But just to give you kind of a bit of background, so we've got Thomas Joseph Brown popping over to do these two talks. One is on the 3rd of September and one is on the 7th of September. And the other person is Harry Rhodes, who has, as you say, stolen blood from you. But
Yes.
yeah, because essentially, I think from the beginning of this, whether we call it, all this nonsense 4 years ago, we've done a lot of research. We've dug into all sorts of different rabbit holes, etc. But the ones that really make a difference, are the ones in which we can actually utilize. But this knowledge is so scarce, and that is the problem. Is that the real knowledge is kind of buried. It's kind of misinterpreted. I mean, even I quoted a few things, like the ether was on the periodic table in the 1920s, and actually that's a load of rubbish, and I didn't
Oh,
even
is it?
realize. So,
You've been corrected.
I'm sat corrected exactly. But it's little fundamental things like this that propel us to help change occur within humanity.
Hmm.
And taking responsibility for things and being able to help and sort out, because we've got all these kind of man-made lovely clouds, that we generally have on a day-to-day basis, this lovely grey nonsense, but we want to do something about it. So
Hmm.
is there something we can do? And those are the kind of questions that we're going to ask. Water, what is water, and how does it affect our lives? And it is the most incredible phenomena or subject. And so Thomas Joseph Brown is talking about water, ether, essentially the secrets of the universe, and how do we apply that to our daily lives?
Well, it sounds like an amazing event, and like all these things, limited tickets and what have you.
Yeah.
But shall we talk to some of these great men?
Yes, let's bring on Thomas and Harry. Yes, please.
So let's talk to Thomas first of all, because I've met Harry. If you wouldn't mind waiting in the wings a little bit longer, Harry, and then I expect my blood to be returned. But in the meantime, Thomas, it's an absolute honour to talk to you.
Richard, thank you. Lovely to be on your show. Appreciate it.
So it's absolutely my pleasure. Now, I have spoken to a few people in the course of my, what would I call it, my journey of understanding and presenting these shows about water. And it has come to my attention that water is more than just that liquid you fill up a glass sometime or you mix with tea or coffee that comes out of the tap. We're all now, I think most of the audience to this show is aware that we've got to filter it or reverse osmosis it or whatever, clean it up. but it's more than just that. It's something that is primeval to us.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know. Well, modern science, it's a funny thing. They have all these things like black holes and stuff, which don't exist. If you look into it, it's one of those modern mythologies. The center of the galaxy is actually a plasma. We've reproduced this stuff in the laboratory years ago in high frequency labs. But actually, there's water around the center of the galaxy and other galaxies. They detect what they call water masers, coherent broadcasts of water energy that are being energized by intense magnetic fields. So there's water everywhere. There's like stars that shoot bullets of water out. There's snow around stars. There's moons, ice moons. There's water everywhere from the center of the galaxy to the center of our cells. Like even our DNA molecules, they're surrounded by like billions of water molecules, and their structure basically determines our health. How good the water we drink and how energized it is depends on how healthy we are and how we go on. So it's absolutely essential. And there's researchers like a lot of people know about Dr. Emoto, and in modern times, Avita Austin, who will be coming to the UK soon. And consciousness in water, where people's impressions can show up in ice. And I've seen this many times. I've seen where other equipment, and we'll show some of this in the talk, some of the different influences that basically can structure water and change it to a bit.
Yeah.
So
I've just recently read actually Dr. Emoto's book, because I kept hearing it bandied about, and I thought I better read this and see what he was doing. And it's absolutely phenomenal, that for sure. And the fact that water has been, like us in many ways, dumbed down when it should be structured, and the fourth dimension of water, and the health qualities, and the amount of information, I understand, that can be stored within water.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a universal computer. It's a water world, and we're what I call hydrosapiens.
Hydrosapien. No, I like that. That's very
yeah. So, but also too, Secrets of the Universe. I thought I'd throw a little story in just for fun. I thought you'd appreciate. I saw this morning here your talk on the color of the sun changing.
Yes.
And of course, it changes in the atmosphere, not the sun itself. I was running a research foundation back in the 80s and 90s in California called Borderland Sciences. And we were looking into Goethe's scientific work and non-Newtonian color theory. So I got real interested in the atmosphere and atmospheric color formation. So I called up NASA and I said, hey, I need to know the dominant spectra of the sun and the optical wavelengths. Could you give me like a spectrograph from up above the atmosphere? And they're going, no, we don't have that information. I'm going, come on, man. You guys been up there like 25 years, Skylab, all that. You must have. Nope. I said, how about just a white light photo? They said, no, we don't have any. I go, oh, how about some pictures of some stars in white light? They go, no, we don't have any. I go, well, what do you have?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got emission bands in the extreme ultraviolet. The only white light photos of the sun were taken with coronagraphs. Now they're doing them basically electronically, but it was coming down like an aluminum tube reflected, and reflection was showing up on it. But basically there was no, space was black, according to them. And I talked to this guy that worked for NASA for 25 years in the photographic department. He told me, he said, yeah, it was weird when they first went up. Alan Shepard and John Glenn saw the fireflies around his craft. He said they started working on special diffraction gratings. He said, and they could start seeing the higher order, sources. He said, but I don't know where that project went because everything was so compartmentalized. But in my research, because I like check things out, so I called up the head of the solar research at the Naval Research Center in Washington, D.C. And I was going, well, what's this whole thing about you can't see the stars and stuff, and space is black? He's going, who told you that? And I'm going, NASA. He's going, they're pulling your leg. I'm going, no, this is public relations at Johnson Space Center in Houston. He goes, talk to my associate, John Bartow. He was on the the first Challenger flight. He spacewalked, did some solar research. So he puts John on the phone, and I talked to him. He's going, no, look, he said, you get above the atmosphere, and the stars are brighter than they are on Earth, and they don't twinkle. I'm going, okay, well, that makes sense. I appreciate it. So I called back my contact in NASA. They're going, well, he was a trained observer and would have accurately reported his observations. He said, but the information we've given you is correct. So what I realize is all the guys they all got special visors and things on. And the reason that we see stars is because of the orgone, or the etheric forces in our atmosphere, actually make the starlight appear, because it's not photons flying through space, but it is actually like Tesla's longitudinal electricity, right? It's like space scalar, just appears from one point to another. So yeah, just give it up. But anyway, since you brought up the thing on the sun this morning, I thought I'd throw that little story in.
Yeah, no, that is so interesting. Blimey, it's a reason for going to the event in itself. Before we move to Harry, there he is. Hello, Harry. Before we move on to Harry, I'd love to know a little bit about ether, because I know Rachel mentioned that it isn't on the periodic table, and some people sort of have said it was. And when I went some months ago, because I heard people talking about ether, I thought I must get a book on that and just gen up. And there seemed to be nothing, at least not on some of these mainstream online, without mentioning their name, book platforms. And I dare say there are some books from the sort of 1900s which have been squirreled away somewhere.
No, the 18th, 1900s. I did a whole survey of the development of ether theories. Going back, the whole intimation of the ether came out of people trying to figure out about light and what's light. Does it travel? When you look at Oliver Lodge, all these people did these amazing experiments, and they tell you, well, there's this Michelson-Morley experiment where negative results, proved there was no ether, right? So now we have relativity. But basically, the Michelson-Morley, they did detect an ether, but it was about 1/4 to 1/6 of what they expected, which we later found out through Dayton Miller's experiments was because they were doing it in heavy equipment down like in basements with all these giant sort of rotating granite discs on mercury and special springs. And they were like killing the ether, right? They were still picking up some. Dayton Miller went and he was doing ether drift experiments up at Mount Wilson in like the 30s, and he detected the absolute motion of the Earth. James DeMeo, who's passed away, did a lot of work on ether, or through Wilhelm Reich's orgone, and he's helped republish a lot of Dayton Miller's work. So that's the hydromechanical ether. But then we have like Rudolf Steiner's view of the ether, which are like the formative living forces that basically the ethers are levity, right? So Newton saw the apple fall, and all of science is based on something dead hitting the ground. Nothing about what's this fantastic force that made this thing grow and form and gives us all these like phytochemicals that give us energy and life. Well, this goes back to the Galileo, actually. We can blame, people know Galileo because of the telescope, which he sold to the Venetians as a military weapon, and got a very healthy golden lifelong stipend and became an armaments master for Venice and did all this work on cannonball trajectories. And anyway, he started an academy. It was under, I believe, the Orsinis were funding it in the Accademia del Cimento in Florence. And they actually issued a thing they called the Contra Levitatum Maxim. You weren't allowed to speak about the higher forces. Only that which could be weighed and measured was allowed into scientific thought. So the ether is a levity force. It's what animates us. It's a life force. It's what lifts plants up out of the ground, not what makes them fall when they die, which is all we get out of Newton. So yeah, it's a lot of different ways of looking at it. We can define it, delineate it. My mentor, Trevor Constable, whose work Harry was doing, that's how we connected through that. Trevor always used to say we call him the etheric rain engineer or the etheric weather engineer. And Trevor would say, he goes, people have been arguing about the ether for thousands of years. He said, I don't have time for that. I just get to work and engineer it to make it rain.
Yes.
And he did. And we proved it so many times over the decades. So
Fantastic.
that's the long and short of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Thomas. That's really interesting. Well, let's move over to Harry. Harry, lovely to see you again.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Brilliant. Lots of things going on, positive things that sometimes, you wish things would happen and they happen. And the ether puts a cherry on the cake. It's amazing.
That's amazing. And I guess that the blood I mentioned before is congealed and disappeared now, and there's no hope of ever getting that back.
We converted it naturally into an alien. So,
oh, lovely. There might be a doppelganger, ganger wandering around. You are known for your blood work. So I'm not just being facetious, in which that you look at the cells of the blood and how things like EMFs and water affects us. Maybe you could just for those people who aren't familiar with you, the most staggering thing I think was when I came to a demonstration that you gave at one of the Shine seminars last year, and you had a lady out. And you took her blood, and you were showing it on a screen through a electronic magnifying thing. And then you got her to drink structured water to show what would happen to the cells, and to show that they would declump, if I can get my words out. And you were going to take another sample of blood and show us the before and after type thing. But what you also explained was that water, and the water in the blood, talks to itself over distance. And we saw on the screen the first specimen where it was all clumped together, as she drank the water, the structured water, start to clamp, can't think of the word. Yes.
It's called a rouleau.
It's called?
A rouleau.
A rouleau.
A rouleau. ROLOUX. And it's a blood clot, basically. Yeah.
And watching that, learning just that, is that quantum entanglement where it speaks over a distance?
Yeah, water does talk to water, which is proven by Peter Austin. It's a fascinating subject. If somebody's in a bad relationship and they're being abused, we know that, as Emoto said, the water puts ugly structures in it when it's in a bad situation. It just absorbs everything. And we're no different. When your wife shouts at you, your water changes. It does. So we talk to each other with water as well. But I don't believe in string theory, but here's something I learned which was fascinating. I don't know, call it entanglement, call it what you want. If I take a proton and I split that proton, cut it into, etherically or physically, call it what you want, and you take your half of the proton to the far end of the universe, and I go the opposite direction, when you bounce your proton half, mine bounces exactly the same time, over billions of light years, if you like. So this all takes place, as Thomas said, within the ethers. I believe the ether is the scaffolding for the universe. And Tesla said, if you understand the ether, you will understand how the universe works. And this is the knowledge that we are now all experiencing. It's a fantastic journey.
Absolutely. I mean, what a time to be alive. These dark forces pushing us ever towards the edge has made us wake up to all these wonderful occulted knowledge. So presumably, is the ether then this sort of power that you're talking about, when you're using your cloud busting technology and your weather manipulation or correction from the rather nasty weather manipulation that they are doing to us? Is the ether involved in that?
Absolutely. Trevor even said it goes on forever through the universe. And what you have to do, you cause a disturbance within the ether. You cause a disturbance within the ether, that starts resurrecting the activity of your intentions in the ether. For example, I've learned, I learned from Thomas that he had a 9-pin valve, one of the secrets, and I've a vacuum valve, 9 pins. 9, I'll explain that later, magical number. And next to it, I put a £3,500 compressor tube, which has 2 potentials. There's a disturbance. The vacuum's wanting to take in the pressure, and the pressures want to get rid of itself into the vacuum, but the twain never meet. And there's a disturbance. And it's always opposites, isn't it? Hot, cold, light, dark, dry, wet, windy. There's all opposites, which means that's potentials. So heat wants to go where the cold is, light goes where the dark is. And you can tap in those two potentials in principle.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that connecting back to the water, and Dr. Emoto, in his book, he says that you can look at a cloud, and if you use your consciousness, you can dissolve the cloud within minutes. Is part of that part of your cloud busting technology that you're using?
Yeah, it's within intentions. I mean, even the voice produces vortices. Each vowel produces a different vortex. I did something, I don't know whether, I never told this to Thomas. I think I might have told it to Rachel. I'm stuck on the motorway coming back from Derby. We've been there half an hour, and there was one single level flat cloud in front of us. And I shut my eyes, I put my hand out, I could feel the cloud in my hand, and I twisted it till it went upright. Now, people say you're insane. Well, I'll tell you what, people in the cars, one person even got out of the car and pointed at it and said, have you seen that cloud? It's gone upright. That's the intention. So yes. These are magical times. We as humans, I believe in even the demonic angels, which there is certainly a dark side going on up there. It said even war broke out in heaven. That's what the scriptures say. War broke out in heaven. And that was over the jealousy that mankind are being given the skills and the art and the gifts of creation. Even the angels and the demons don't have that. That's why they rely on us to produce things. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that is amazing. I mean, I made a video the other day saying that we are the creators because we've got inspiration and all that amazing creative ability that it seems that the ones that want to control us don't seem to have, which is why they need us.
Yes.
So that's...
Well, finally coming to water, it all started, yes, it started with translators, and thankfully I met people like Thomas, who worked with Trevor James Constable. But I was starting to also look at this at the human body. All four of us here today actually are over 90% water. That's amazing. And knowing water talks to water, that's one of the ways we communicate. But I thought, well, if you've got a kidney problem or a heart problem, or another problem in the body, you don't have a kidney problem, you have a blood water problem. And if you fix that, by the way, that's over 90% of the body. So start with the water, start with the 90%, the rest should fix itself. And
yes,
explain later some of the health benefits from the water and how we're treating people with water is incredible.
Yeah. And it's such a shame that this sort of knowledge is not being taken on by our established medical associations and the hospitals and what have you. They're all being trained in a very different way.
I've got two people in the NHS, one's a cardiologist, recommending my products to his patients.
Oh, that is amazing. That's incredible.
Spectacular results. And he got his fingers burnt and they said they threatened to sack him, so he does it in private now.
Right. Very wise. Tell us just briefly about the Paris and the flooding that happened.
Behind the scenes, there's lots going on that people don't realise. I think it's coming out more in the public. We don't want to go too public with it. I mean, if these didn't work, I wouldn't be bothered.
Right.
But the problem is they do work. They work exceptionally well, and they have fantastic results. And as Trevor James Constable said, only results count. Hence the website, only results count.
Yes.
So we do things like that. Now, the Paris, everybody was disgusted at the Paris opening. It was an insult to Christianity, not flying the flag of Christianity, but it's an insult to humankind, I believe, when there's 34 different sexual orientations, and then that's disgusting. Nature said male and female, and no matter how you get around it, there's male and female, and that's it. So we've got transvestites and homosexuals and lesbians, you call them. You probably have 34 of them there, one for each one. So to put the dampers on it, there's two reasons for this. We deployed on Paris, and rain appeared right over the Olympics, as you could say, almost from nowhere. It does appear from the ethers, in fact. That's where rain appears. I'll explain that one later. But the rain that comes from the ethers is a different type of charged water than comes naturally, unless the ether has been creating it. Now, we know with the chemtrails, they're spraying literally thousands of tons of graphene oxide aerogel. And I know this for a fact because I've been to the conferences, the German conference. They had 500 world-class scientists there to do with geoengineering, solar radiation management, and climate change. And they said aluminium is not particularly that good. It causes precipitation or rain. So they said, we need graphene. It stays up there for weeks and months. And these are the finer particles. It's 7.5 times lighter than air as a nanoparticulate. And hence, when Thomas said the atmosphere, the colors changing, graphene in a nanoparticulate is transparent. When it gets an electrical charge through it, it becomes magnetic and it turns black. I love the science. It's great when we use science back against their science and prove them wrong.
Absolutely. Let's go back to Rachel, because I want to find out a bit more about the event and how people can get tickets. You've got these amazing gentlemen who are able to speak freely, and you've heard a sample of that. So Rachel, one up north, one in the Midlands, I think you said.
Well, there's so the 7th of September is on a Saturday, and that's actually in Birmingham. And then we've got one on the 3rd of September. Did I freeze then? Sorry. 3rd of September is a Tuesday, and that's going to be at Toft Manor in Bedfordshire. So so there'll be the 2 links below your video where people can go and purchase the tickets. But yeah, so those are the 2 events that we've got on. And the one on the 3rd of September, we can only have 70 people actually at that venue. So it's going to be quite a nice intimate one. But we've nearly sold out the 3rd of September, unfortunately. But then we've got the 7th of September in Birmingham, which is a bigger venue, actually. So we should be able to have a few more people at that event. We'd be able to impart a lot more knowledge and a lot more information. And, we're so lucky to have these 2 chaps, because both of them have done, so much work in the background. And Thomas Joseph Brown as he's also had the knowledge, and he's been able to spend time with these big grand masters, so he was the young one like me, all kind of enthusiastic and really wanting to learn more, and how do we change this planet, and how do we make life better again, and so he has all this knowledge, and now the stars are aligning, the world is changing, and we are ready for change.
Absolutely. I think people are sort of very much beginning to become more open to not just the problems of the world, but the solutions.
Exactly.
Thomas, I'd love to, where can people find out more information about you?
For me, currently I'm writing articles on Substack, and my address on there is alchemix, ALKEMIX.art. Because for me, I call my presentations symbolic performance art. I just have fun. It's infotainment of what I call the highest order. One thing I wanted to throw in, because you're asking Harry about the clouds, I actually have a slide in this upcoming thing. I have more details, what we call ocular cloud busting. There's actually a beam that comes out of the eye, and you can actually measure it and feel it. It was actually measured on solenoids. There's all sorts of information when you look into that. And that's actually what helps us see colors, right? This whole thing about we're not really seeing colors, it's going in our brain in it. Yes. We can't tell if we're a brain in a bucket because it's all being interpreted. Well, that's all BS. The colors are actually outside, and it's our visual ray actually forms the colors. So our peripheral vision kind of gives us a general sense of things, but what we're actually, because there's so much information, we can't process it all. What we're processing is what our visual ray touches. And you can use that, and you can point it at a cloud. You can bore a hole in the cloud. Once you know it's there and you use it like that. So yeah, intention is there, but it's like a guitar, right? You can have the intention, but you have to know how to hold your fingers on it properly to get the right thing. So if you really know how to use that visual ray, you can do some amazing things with the clouds with it.
So, see, there's a beam that comes out of your eye. Now, I've only got one eye. One is an ocular pretend eye, because I had a thing that ate the eye away. So does that mean if you've got two eyes, you've got twice the power? Or if you only have one eye, like, why are you a hopeless case?
That's a good question. It's probably, well, I don't know. There might be people with two eyes who don't have enough energy and nothing's coming out, right? So it probably depends on your energetic state.
Yeah.
But no, that theory goes back, Empedocles, and, there was early philosophers all believed that. It was really this Al-Hazim, in the Middle Ages, he the pharaoh, or not the pharaoh, but what do they call him? The ruler of Cairo around 1000 AD, right? He wanted this guy Al-Hazim to dam up the Nile, right? And this guy's going, I can't do it, right? He's going to like kill him if he doesn't do it. So his only choice is to act like he's crazy. So because he's crazy, they throw him in the dungeon. So this guy spends years in the dungeon, and all he's got is a little beam of light coming in. He noticed whenever the light got in his eye, it hurt because it was always dark. So he thought there was only light coming in the eye. And that's where the intromission theory started and kind of degenerated into modern science. But basically, long before that, everybody knew about the visual ray that came out of the eye. It just, the Greeks knew about it. That's how they were, you can find it basically in the old.
So does that explain when someone's looking at you because that beam is hitting you?
Absolutely, like Rupert Sheldrake's work on that. And there was another one, Cullen Ross. It was like a psychiatrist, and he actually did tests where he actually developed a little thing and he could measure the voltage and stuff. And then there was another scientist who was in Popular Science back in 1925. I show this in some of my seminars, all the different research on it. So, you can train it.
That's incredible. So there we go. I mean, this is a good reason to go and support these events and go and see them. These incredible, knowledgeable gentlemen who are only too willing to share that knowledge for the betterment of humanity, the secrets of the universe. So I think we'll draw it to a close because I don't want to give too much away and get people to come along to the event. Rachel, can you send me, and so I can put into the description all the necessary links and all of that?
Absolutely. No, I'll send you the links so that we can pop them underneath and people can come along. And there is going to be a little buffet. They're not expensive tickets because, we just want to share this knowledge with people and to impart, all this grand master understanding from these incredible guys. And what we can do to change our lives.
Well, I have to say, thank you so much for all of you for coming on. It would be lovely to get both Thomas and Harry separately on the show to sort of talk about their work and some of their knowledge on a separate occasion, so we can go into it a little bit more. The things that we can say on the platform without being thrown off. But in the meantime,
would love to, Richard.
That would be lovely. So there we are, Thomas Joseph Brown. Thank you so much, and the wonderful Harry Rhodes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for making the time, and of course to lovely Rachel. And should I say, if you want any of those magnets that she had, I'll put the link in the description just in case you want some healing magnetic energy. I think it's quite good, Rachel, isn't it, to put against water when you've got your water in one of those things to sort of help structure it and things.
Absolutely. Well, it changes the structure of water, and actually magnets wouldn't exist without ether.
Oh, there you go. It all comes back to this. It's very circular, isn't it? Once you know. The
scaffolding of the universe, as Harry says. But they are absolutely. It's just incredible. It's such an amazing world.
Brilliant. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Rachel, Thomas, and Harry. All the stuff that you need will be in the description. I should just point out my links at the moment, because YouTube don't like me very much. You have to copy and paste them. They don't just click. It's just having been banned 4 times, demonetized and almost demoralized, but not quite. I'm still smiling. So just cut and paste the links. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. So until next time, from us all, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.